Leo, let me tell you something up front. You're not falling apart. You're being reshaped. You're being pruned on purpose so that you can finally hold the wealth, love, and leadership you were always meant for. And I know that process can feel like hell. Welcome to eternal mindfulness. This space isn't for everyone. It's for those of you who've felt like everything's been stripped away lately, relationships ending, finances tightening, energy flatlining, emotions feeling numb or overwhelming at once. If that's been you, then you're in the right place. This message found you because your spirit was ready for it. Not before. Not too late. But right now. So let's start here. What if the emptiness you felt wasn't punishment but preparation? What if this whole season of being cut off from people, projects, and even parts of yourself was a divine strategy? On September 30th, the energy around you shifts. We're under the influence of a Capricorn waning moon and a rare harmonious alignment between Venus and Neptune. That's not just astrology jargon, it means you're being called to mature emotionally, to clean up your energetic boundaries, and to stop watering relationships or patterns that can't grow with you. This is divine cleanup, Leo. And it's long overdue. You know what I'm talking about. You've been generous to a fault. You've let people feed off your light, drain your time, test your loyalty, and still you showed up with open arms. That was love, yes, but it was also self-betrayal. Not because you were weak, but because your heart hadn't learned the difference between giving and bleeding. This is why you've been going through what feels like emotional withdrawal. Why your spirit has felt quiet, even hollow. It's not because you're broken. It's because you're finally learning how to protect your life force. That's sacred, no, you've been afraid to say. That's what builds the vault for your future. Let me be clear, the universe doesn't hand over abundance to hearts that can't say no. Discipline is the door to overflow. And Leo, you're finally ready to walk through it. So if you've been feeling like you're losing parts of yourself, understand this. What's being cut off are the versions of you that couldn't carry the life you asked for. You are being restructured so that your abundance isn't accidental, it's sustainable. You didn't find this video randomly. You didn't click by mistake. Something in your spirit knew there was a deeper answer, a deeper direction, and a deeper destiny than what you've been settling for. You didn't come here to be depleted. You came here to build a life so rooted, no storm could shake it. And I just want to take a moment to thank you for being here. Every like, every comment, every subscription, it's not just support for the channel. It's a declaration that you are part of a collective awakening. And trust me, Leo, you'll want to stay with me until the very end of this message. What the universe is about to reveal might just explain everything you've been going through. Now tell me this in the comments, what's one thing you've had to walk away from recently that secretly freed you? Let me know below. This is your space. This is your time. Let's begin. Leo, if life has recently felt quiet, too quiet, you're not alone. There's a stillness in the air that can feel confusing, even painful. You might wonder if you've done something wrong, or if you've been forgotten. But what if this quiet wasn't punishment, but preparation? What if your stillness wasn't a void, but a greenhouse? Imagine this with me. A rare, precious seed has been placed in rich soil. That seed isn't tossed in the open, exposed to the elements. It's planted inside a glass house, protected from storms, extremes, and curious hands that don't understand its worth. Its light is measured. Its water is intentional. Every condition around it is calibrated with care, not to rush the bloom, but to protect the process. You, Leo, are that seed. This greenhouse season you've been in, where you feel hidden, disconnected, maybe even trapeze isn't random. It's spiritual design. In astrology, the waning moon in Capricorn this week highlights discipline, boundaries, and pruning for future structure. Venus's alignment with Neptune reminds us that love without discernment isn't love, it's self-erasure. And so, the universe begins to shield you, placing you in a state of necessary stillness, so your roots can grow deep into truth before you're asked to rise into visibility again. And it can feel frustrating, even cruel, I know. The silence of unanswered prayers. The echo of empty rooms. The friends who no longer reach out. The lovers who never called back. The career momentum that seemed to dry up overnight. But from where I'm standing, where energy patterns and soul paths are visible in motion, it's clear. What looks like absence is actually protection. What seems like delay is sacred timing. Numerologically, the energy of this moment is rooted in the number 9. September 30th collapses into 3 plus 0 plus 9 is equal to 12. Then 1 plus 2 equals 3, a number of expansion and divine creation. But the sum total of 39ths also points us to 9, the final number before the reset, the harvest before the replanting. And 6, found through this lunar alignment, is the vibration of healing, domestic peace, and sacred responsibility. Together, these numbers echo one truth. This cycle is closing so you can step into something higher. Not because you begged for it, but because your soul outgrew the old container. Have you ever seen a tree drop its leaves before winter truly begins? It sheds not because it's dying, but because it knows, if it carries the old, it cannot survive the new. You too may be shedding. Old beliefs. Old habits. Old versions of love that demanded too much and gave too little. And it's okay to feel the ache in that. But don't confuse the falling leaves for a dying tree. You are being prepped for full bloom. You're just not blooming where they planted you before. Let's be honest, this season may have made you doubt your timing, your worth, or even your calling. But pause here and ask yourself, could this be the moment where you stop needing validation from the outside, and start anchoring truth from the inside? That's what the greenhouse is for. It's where leaders are incubated before they lead. Where wealth is downloaded before it's manifested. Where healing happens in private, before the world tries to define it for you. If you're watching this and nodding quietly, feeling that inner recognition, comment below and let it be known. Say, "This is my greenhouse season," and declare it with the strength of someone who's done waiting for outside approval. Say it to mark this moment as the turning point, not when things exploded outward, but when they finally aligned inward. There is a quiet revolution happening inside you, Leo. Stay rooted. The walls around you aren't cages, they are the sacred structure between who you were and who you're about to become. Keep growing. You are not being left behind. You are being prepared to lead. There's a moment in every person's life, usually quiet, usually private, when we stop asking, "Why did they hurt me?" and instead begin to ask, "What did this teach me about myself?" That shift is where real power begins. And Leo, I believe you're standing right in the middle of that threshold right now. It's not a glamorous place. There are no bright lights here, no cheering crowd. But there is something sacred about it. Because this is where your healing stops being about the wound and starts becoming about your future. When people talk about heartbreak, they often picture romance gone wrong. But the truth is, the deepest cuts rarely come from lovers. They come from those we trusted the most. Family who made you feel invisible. Friends who disappeared when you needed them most. Business partners who took your ideas and left you behind. You didn't just lose people, you lost versions of yourself that were deeply entangled in their approval, their presence, their promises. And those losses? They don't just sting. They redefine you. In the language of energy, every betrayal is a forced recalibration. Your spirit, generous and warm like any true Leo, extended itself without hesitation. You gave and gave and gave, hoping it would come back in love, loyalty, or simply acknowledgement. But instead, you ended up depleted. Your heart, once a fountain of light, started to leak. And those leaks? That was the slow spiritual bleeding that you couldn't even see at first. But your body felt it. The fatigue. The anxiety. The aching confusion. That was your energetic field waving a red flag. Here's where the metaphor matters. Think of your heart as a garden. The people who drained you? They were the overgrown vines choking your roots. The loud, showy flowers that stole all the light. The pests you didn't notice until things stopped blooming. So when life began cutting them away, whether through conflict, distance, or silence, it felt violent. But it was actually surgical. It wasn't murder. It was medicine. Astrologically, this phase is intensified by the current energies of Temperance and the Three of Swords reversed. In Tarot, the reversed Three of Swords signals healing after pain. Not just surviving heartbreak, but integrating it. And Temperance? That's the alchemy of emotion, learning to respond instead of react, to choose peace over proving your pain. Together, these cards aren't about forgetting the past. They're about repurposing it. You may still have phantom aches from the people you've lost. That's normal. Sometimes you'll find yourself reaching emotionally towards someone who's no longer there, and not because you want them back, but because their absence is still echoing. But that echo isn't a reason to go back. It's proof of growth. Proof that you've created new space, and that space is sacred. So now, instead of trying to rewrite the past, I encourage you to practice something simple but deeply effective. Write an unsent letter. Write to the person who hurt you, not for them, but for you. Say everything you never got to say. Be raw. Be honest. Be free. Then close the letter and let it go. You're not sending it out, you're pulling it out from within you. And after that, practice what I call active stillness. When that urge to explain yourself comes up, when that emotional muscle memory kicks in, pause. Choose silence. Not because you're suppressing, but because you're anchoring into something stronger. The silence isn't emptiness. It's mastery. If this resonates, I want you to comment below. Name one person you've loved deeply but now bless from a distance. That name, just the name, is a signpost on your healing path. It's proof that you're no longer begging for reciprocity. You're choosing self-respect. This isn't about bitterness. It's about clarity. You're not becoming colder, Leo. You're becoming cleaner in your energy, sharper in your boundaries. And that, more than anything else, is what prepares the heart to hold abundance. Wealth doesn't just require strategy, it requires strength of spirit. And you're building that right now, one scar at a time. There comes a moment in every Leo's growth when passion is no longer enough. You've already learned how to burn brightly, how to love with intensity, to fight for others, to show up even when you're bleeding inside. But fire without form? It burns everything, including the one who holds it. What you're stepping into now is a completely different level of power. It's not about being louder. It's not about being softer either. It's about being precise. This is the phase where your heart is no longer just a source of raw emotion, it becomes a laser. Not a wildfire consuming every space it touches, but a focused, deliberate energy capable of healing and cutting through what no longer serves. Think about the difference. A fire reacts. A laser chooses. And what makes that possible? Self-control. Not the rigid, harsh kind, but the kind born from clarity, from knowing who you are, what you need, and what you will no longer tolerate. Earlier, we talked about the pruning, the emotional cuts that felt like loss but were truly invitations to grow. Now that space in your heart is being redefined. Not to be closed off, but to be more protected and directed. In astrology, Leo rules the heart, the spine, and the solar plexus, your confidence, your inner fire. But even that energy has to evolve. The Leo that leads with drama has to give way to the Leo that leads with discernment. Energetically, this is the shift from giving love to be seen, to giving love because you are already full. This is what makes the heart a laser, when it no longer seeks validation, only alignment. Let's bring this into real life. One simple way to embody this energetic upgrade is to start saying no without over-explaining. Not out of coldness, but out of knowing your value. If something feels off, don't twist yourself into knots to justify your discomfort. Your body already told you. Trust that. That's your laser talking. Another practice? Learn to accept praise without pushing it away. The next time someone tells you, "You did great," try not to deflect or water it down. Instead, pause, breathe, and simply say, "Thank you." That pause? That's another beam of focus. It's you standing still in your own light instead of immediately giving it away. To support this energy, you can work with visual and physical tools. Try a box breathing exercise. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. It calms your nervous system and sharpens your awareness. Combine that with a visualization. Imagine your heart center glowing like a sapphire blue gem, precise and powerful. Picture a golden current radiating from it, piercing through layers of illusion, self-doubt, or emotional clutter. That's your inner laser coming online. And if you felt misunderstood or accused of being too much in the past, know this: you weren't too much. You were just too undefined. This next version of you, it knows where to send its love. It knows when to pull back. That's not detachment. That's evolution. Color energies are useful here, too. Sapphire blue supports truth, discernment, and intuitive speech. It helps filter what enters your space emotionally. Gold amplifies self-worth, inner stability, and prosperity. It reminds your heart that it doesn't have to perform to be valued. Together, they create a shield that doesn't just protect, it empowers. If this speaks to you, pause right now and reflect. Where in your life have you been giving too much without direction? What would it look like to bring the laser into focus, refine, and love with intention? Comment below and declare it. Right, I am activating my laser heart. This isn't just a metaphor, it's a milestone. Because once your love stops leaking everywhere, it becomes the most potent force in your world. And that's the love that moves mountains, builds empires, and heals what even time couldn't touch. You know, I've seen it time and time again, people crying out for blessings, for breakthrough, for abundance. But their hearts are still wide open to chaos. You ask for millions, yet let just anyone walk into your emotional vault and take what they want. It doesn't work that way. The universe, in all its infinite wisdom, is not reckless. It doesn't deliver treasure to hearts that haven't been trained to protect it. And that's not punishment, it's preparation. Think of your heart as a vault. Every time you set a boundary, every time you say no to a draining conversation, a manipulative relationship, or an energy-leeching commitment, that's a new layer of steel added to that vault door. That's spiritual welding. And yes, it's hard. Saying no when you could easily say yes just to avoid guilt. Walking away from a toxic connection even though you're afraid of being alone. Choosing a humble meal over flashy distractions. Those are all million-dollar decisions disguised as everyday moments. And I want you to let that sink in. Because when you start seeing your tiny acts of discipline as million-dollar moves, everything shifts. Suddenly, your life isn't about surviving the day or pleasing everyone. It's about securing your energetic inheritance. It's about telling the universe, I'm serious. I'm not here to play small. I'm not here to bleed for love that doesn't love me back. I'm not here to keep investing in people and projects that don't invest in me. That's where the real spiritual currency lives, in how you manage what little you think you have. You might be budgeting your last few dollars right now, cutting corners, skipping dessert, reusing things others would throw away. And you know what that looks like to most people? Scarcity. But to the universe? That's financial intelligence. That's spiritual mastery. That's someone who can be trusted with more. You don't need a finance degree to be rich in this lifetime. What you need is emotional self-control. The ability to delay gratification. To know when to give and when to hold back. And yes, I know. Some of you have been conditioned to believe that selflessness equals holiness. That's saving others 7 when it's killing you is noble. But hear me when I say this, sacrificing your peace to rescue someone who refuses to swim is not spiritual. It's self-abandonment. That's why today, I want to offer you something practical. Start a soul-spending journal. Every night before bed, write down who or what you gave your emotional energy to. Was it worth it? Was it love, or was it obligation? Did it nourish you or drain you? Because if you want to be a millionaire, you need to track more than dollars. You need to track energy. Let me tell you something the cards reveal too. When the Emperor shows up in a reading, it isn't just about power, it's about stewardship. Discipline. Responsibility. You are being asked to govern your internal kingdom with the same care you would handle a vault full of gold. And when the Four of Pentacles arrives, it's not about being stingy. It's about being wise. Not everyone deserves access to your light. Some people need to be locked out for your vault to stay full. So ask yourself this tonight: who still has the key to your vault that you haven't changed the lock on yet? And why? Don't just listen and not act. Lock the vault. Change the passcode. Fortify your boundaries. Because what's coming to you isn't light. It's heavy. It's blessed. It's divine wealth. And it needs to be protected by a heart that doesn't open for pity or pressure. So if you're ready, declare it in the comments below. I'm locking my energy vault now. Let the universe see you're no longer available for leaks. Now tell me, are you ready to become someone who can hold millions without losing your peace? Or will you continue letting temporary feelings steal your permanent blessings? The choice is spiritual. On September 30th, the energy shifts again, this time more subtly, more seductively. If you've made it this far, you've likely begun to sense how life speaks, not always with thunder, but with a whisper. And this particular whisper, it sounds familiar. It might come through a text from someone who once left you hollow. A message that says all the right words, in all the wrong ways. Or maybe it's a stranger offering you something too good to be true: fast money for a righteous cause, a shortcut cloaked in virtue. It smells like salvation, but your gut twitches. That's the first clue. You see, old energies don't always show up in old costumes. Sometimes, they dress themselves in new clothes, rehearse new lines, and walk back into your life like they've changed. But energy doesn't lie. The body remembers what the mind tries to negotiate. That tightness in your stomach, that momentary nausea you feel before smiling politely, that's the truth. Not the words, not the promises, but the vibration underneath them. I'm not saying this to make you paranoid. I'm telling you this because you've done too much healing to fall for something that's simply familiar. The number 8 will follow you today, maybe on receipts, clocks, or messages. In numerology, 8 is a symbol of power, abundance, and karmic cycles. It teaches us that what we send out, returns. And that includes our decisions. So if today brings temptation, it's not punishment, it's a checkpoint. It's spirit asking, are you really done with the old cycle, or are you still negotiating your worth? Repeat the code 888 as a spiritual boundary. Not to ward off evil, but to remind your soul, I choose aligned abundance. I no longer accept recycled pain disguised as opportunity. Every time you choose differently, you rewrite your vibration. You inform the universe, I have learned. I am ready. Send me the next level. This is not about saying no to everything. It's about saying yes to the right things, at the right frequency. Some offers look good, sound perfect, and still don't resonate. Don't be afraid to disappoint someone else in order to stay true to yourself. Don't be afraid to let that old friend, ex-lover, or chance to help pass you by if the timing, tone, or energy feels off. Your discernment is not unkind, it is sacred. And here's something most people don't talk about. Sometimes, the most dangerous offers are wrapped in the illusion of purpose. Let's do this to help others, they say. Or, you'll be saving them if you come back. But if your peace is the price, it's too expensive. If your nervous system screams no, listen. Because divine service never comes with panic. True alignment doesn't force you to abandon yourself in order to be useful. Think of this as your spiritual audit. The universe is checking if you're still susceptible to what once broke you. It's not testing you to be cruel, it's inviting you to confirm that you've truly healed. This is where we pause and reflect. Have you ever walked away from something that seemed perfect, only to realize later it saved your life? Think back. Remind yourself. And if you feel safe enough, share your story in the comments. There's someone out there right now standing at the same threshold, and your words might be the rope they need to climb out of the pit. You're not alone in this moment. And even if no one around you understands your choice, even if you can't explain why you said not, trust that your spirit knows. Sometimes you don't need a logical reason. Sometimes, I just knew, is enough. That's the wisdom you've earned. And in this busy world, we often forget that wisdom is quiet. It doesn't shout or plead. It whispers. It nudges. It feels like a breath that never fully fills your lungs until you walk away from the thing that's not meant for you. So if something comes back around today, something you once wanted, cried for, maybe even prayed for, but it no longer feels like truth, let it go. You don't need to relive a lesson to prove you've learned it. You only need to choose differently. That's how cycles end. That's how freedom begins. You're not here to recycle old stories. You're here to write new ones with clarity, courage, and the conviction that comes from finally knowing your worth. Comment 888 if you feel this in your soul. And if you've been here before, if you've said no to what you once said yes to, drop your story below. Someone out there is about to face their own test. Let your voice be the light that helps them pass it. You were never meant to stay hidden, Leo. And you certainly weren't meant to just survive. You were designed for overflow. For purpose. For royal abundance that touches everything you do. But first, you had to be pruned. And maybe that pruning felt like rejection. Like loss. Like being misunderstood. Over and over again. But pruning is not punishment. It's preparation. I know it hasn't been easy. When people walked away. When the opportunities dried up. When your heart broke and no one seemed to notice your tears. But can I remind you of something powerful? The vine is cut so it can bear more fruit. Your heart wasn't broken to break you, it was broken open. So the light could get in. So the greed, fear, doubt, trauma, and spiritual debt could be cleared. Because what's coming next? Can't live in the same room with what almost killed you emotionally. You've done the inner work. You've been quiet when you could have shouted. You've prayed when you could have panicked. You chose growth over gossip. Stillness over seeking revenge. And the universe, God, your ancestors, they saw that. And now, the release is here. A powerful shift has already begun behind the scenes. Someone has spoken your name in the right room. An energetic wire has been tripped. And it's leading money, divine partnerships, surprise gifts, favor, and spiritual support straight to your door. But you must remain aligned. This is your divine homework. Stay grounded. Stay expectant. Stay generous. Stay teachable. If something resonates today, don't ignore it. Take it as your confirmation. If your heart is racing, if your body feels a tingle, if tears are welling up, you are in alignment with this message. Let that become your permission to rise. Not as a beggar, but as a co-creator. So now I ask you, what would a future millionaire do today? Would they shrink, or would they prepare? Would they doubt, or declare? Would they wait, or walk toward the vision? Every choice you make today is a down payment on the reality you're calling in. Start speaking life over yourself again. Begin imagining yourself wealthy, at peace, in love with your purpose. Look in the mirror and say, I've been refined by the fire. I'm no longer waiting, I am receiving. Let your energy become a broadcast signal to the universe. Let your faith do the heavy lifting now. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. This pruning season was the final edit before the story of your rise becomes the most inspiring chapter anyone has ever read. Leo, if your soul feels ready to receive, comment 888 below to anchor this energy and seal the timeline of abundance. Say it out loud if you need to, I've been pruned. I've been prepared. Now I prosper. Share this video with someone who needs to know their miracle is still on schedule. Like and subscribe to stay tuned because the next message might be the one that changes everything. And remember, on this sacred path, eternal mindfulness will always be here, your lighthouse, your sacred space, your reminder that you're never walking alone. So, Leo, what will you choose to believe now? Because the harvest has already started. And you are the one holding the key.